All right, so let's talk about reliability and availability. So these ilities, notice that they're all end with ility. So they're part of the process when we are gathering different types of requirements, and specifically, this would be the part of the non-functional requirements that the business will come up with, saying, between during office hours or during the time that from Mondays to Fridays, from a particular time frame, I want to have a very high reliability. I want to make sure that folks come to the website and it's up and running and they can use the system, and it has to be up at least 99.9% of the time or something like that, right? And they might say, well, in the weekends that's fine. Off hours, okay, so it would be okay. I'm okay with dealing with a less reliable system, and we'll notify folks and that the system is currently under maintenance and whatnot. And this will be part of an agreement between the development team, right, the tech team, and the business. Right? They'll come up with an agreed upon service agreement. Okay. And so we need to be able to priori define what those things are, right? What are the requirements for reliability and availability? Okay, and what they are, how to measure them, and how do they impact the rest of the project. So these are the availability and reliability are both of them measures on how long is it that has it been since the last time that there was a crash or the system was unavailable? And I'd like to know, based on prior experience and prior historical data, empirical data, what are the chances that at any one point in time I go there and I can be confident that the system is going to be up and running? What are the probability of that happening? What are the chances that I go there and the system is actually usable? So both of these are quality of service, right? Agreement that usually it's under contract and usually there's some money or reward associated with this. So typically availability is captured as a percentage. Where you have either statistically within a month or within a year, you have all the time minutes that presumably a system was down, that was not available, and then over all the systems that the time that the system was actually available, right? And the ratio of that time we refer to as availability as an expressed as a percentage in the within a particular given time period. Right? So the probability that the system is available at a specific point in time, and it's just it's the ratio of adding up all the minutes that the system was under failure, including the time that it took you to diagnose the problem, and actually implement the solution and putting up and running. So all that time. Well, the system was unavailable over the total time that the over either a month or a year or whatever period of time that you want to consider. And typically, it's either you look at logs, you look at any a lot of source for empirical evidence that you can then plug in and actually calculate this, right? So here's a simple example over a 1 month period. For the month of some month of in September out of our logs, from our server logs, from our operations, we can get a report over the month of September. When are the times that the system was unavailable on the 3rd, on the 7th, on the 8th? There were all these downtimes, right? And we'd like to know, based on this empirical evidence, what is the availability? So if we add up all the minutes in September, and we divide it over the all the days in September, which 40,000 plus minutes in September, it comes out to be 99.61% availability. Yes.
Why the September 3rd and the September 30 got two?
The logs. That's
Okay.
how the log came out to be. Yes.
So it doesn't actually matter how many times it fails. It matters how long it's down for, right?
Yes. Right. Yeah. So that's measured in availability. The other one is reliability, where it says, okay, well, how long can I assume that it's actually going to be? Can I hope that it won't fail at least for a whole month, right? So you're looking at something that's very intermittent, that because it could be very available, but it crashes every day, right? So maybe that's not what you want. So I want something that's available, but it's very reliable, meaning if it crashes, for a whole day perhaps, right? But then it's available for the rest of the month. And maybe that's so you want to be able to measure both and see what's good for you. What are you looking for? Reliability and availability. So typically there will be some formal description on what is it that the business is looking for, right? In a where there'll be a specification saying that I want this kind of reliability, that I want this kind of availability. And typically the ones that we're looking here are typically just the ones that hurt, right? The business are the ones that are unanticipated, right? Yes.
I just make sure the in the pre post the last slide.
Yeah.
So how to get the total time?
I just there's how many minutes per day, and then just add it from September all the way to
So it's
30.
there should be 30 days, right?
30 days, so many minutes per day.
Yeah, but I got a different results.
Maybe I didn't take out November 1st and November 2nd, maybe? I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah.
started from November 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah. So the ones that are hurt are the ones that we can't anticipate, right? So the ones we can anticipate are typically the ones that we can plan for. We know they're going to be off hours. We know that nobody's going to come in and actually hit the website, and that we can at least put up something and manage the expectations of our users, right? That says, you got us off hours. We're in the middle of an upgrade. Please come back later, as opposed to having unexpected. And so these the anticipated ones are the ones that really hurt our interaction with the end user, and they'll typically be covered and specified in nitty-gritty detail in a service level agreement document. So reliability is it's a little bit different. They both measure time and typically measure how long between failures, right? How confident can I be that for the next several months nothing's going to happen, right? Or at least that during business hours or during the time that I want to be up, how can I be confident that that's indeed going to happen, right? That I will be available when I need to be there, right? And again, this is measured on mean time, meaning there's been empirical evidence that we can then come up with a number that, on average, there's going to be so many hours that you can assume that something's not going to happen. So, for instance, in hardware, and the Seagate hard drive might say that you can be pretty confident that for 0.75 million hours, right? That's nothing's going to happen, right? The drive, we can guarantee that it'll be a very low failure rate. It'll be specified very formal. Yes.
Do you have a mean time between failure rate for a hard drive? Doesn't it just fail and it's done? So there's a mean time between failure and mean time to failure, right?
Right.
Doesn't a hard drive just fail and it's done?
Yes. So I guess you measure several over multiple drives, right? Of what can you expect between failures? Yeah, things that just some of these just are done and you can't recover. So here's a little bit of what graphically what these things mean that if you can recover, there'd be you go down and there's some time to recover. Again, there would be multiple things happening to recover. You might have backups that you can recover the data from a catastrophic failure, and empirically. You measure the time that between any two failures, and so this is and this is a ratio, right? So this is the ratio that we're looking at, that's one over the other, and gives you the availability. So both of them can be expressed also in a percentage as well, and they're and basically they play against each other, right? They're very, very related to one another. So some of these might be that the overtime there would be a failure. The time to restore, so mean time to restore, would be the average of having captured these times, right? The times between the failure and the actual restoring, and then the between failures, right? We want to also know from last failure to the next one, what's the average time between these. And the time to failure is from the last time you restored all the way to the next time that you can assume there'll be the next failure. Okay, so they're both basically measures of each other, right? You could say that one is the reciprocal of the other, right? If you know one, you definitely know the other, right? So the anticipated availability, we'd like to be able to come up with a description of saying, well, what can I expect? Right? What is my expectations, and can I go to my clients and say that I can sell them that you can expect the system to be up between these particular time between these particular days, and usually are expressed in the service level agreement. As date and time intervals. And we can calculate other couple of equations that might be of interest. They're basically saying all the same thing, just expressed in different algebraic, depending on what you have. If you have the MTBF and the MTTR, or you have the availability, you can convert from one to the other, or if you have two, you can find the third one, right? Using this set of equations, right? There's three unknowns. You can always, if there's two unknowns, and you have two equations and two unknowns, you can always find out the third one, right? Right, so here's an example on considering Blackboard, and what are the chances of you going to, yes?
So mean time to failure and mean time between failure are the same thing?
It's basically the same thing. It's one of the reciprocal of the other. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right? You have, they're both different fractions of the whole thing. Yeah. So looking at Blackboard, recently went through a major upgrade, and they're still trying to iron out some wrinkles here and there, and so we like to usually know as a service to the community, the faculty and the students, what can we guarantee as the service levels agreement of Blackboard, right? Whenever you go, what are the chances that it's actually going to be there, up and running? And availability kind of captures some of the same, the mean time to failure, mean time between failures, and the time to recover. Now, mean time to recover, there might be several subset of activities, as you are trying to recover. Typically, it'll go through detecting what the problem is. Everybody's like running around trying to find out what happened. There'll be so some of the things we'll decide that can be fixed right now, or maybe we might identify a workaround for folks to use while the system is down. and we might, depending on the severity of the defect, we might be able to fix certain things right now, or depending on the time that we would like to bring it up, we might bring certain things to make them available. Certain others we might triage and say, well, we can't deal with this right now. Well, we can find a workaround and keep working on it. Meanwhile, folks can use this workaround. We'll and decide which ones we're going to work on first and which ones we're going to be working as a known issue. We'll diagnose it and then repair it and bring it back online. So that's the time to restore takes into account all those activities. Yes.
All failures, are they unplanned or can they be planned and still go to the same?
Well, usually we don't consider a planned failure. We call that maintenance, right? So that's ideally it would all be planned, right? The idea that you know that after hours on Sunday, right, it is going to be down. It does play into your availability, obviously, right? But ideally, it would all be planned, right? That you would have unplanned unavailability, and typically you could say, I'm just going to be unavailable every month. The first Sunday at after hours at 1 a.m. right? And ideally, that would reduce the unplanned unavailability, because the unplanned was what really are the ones that affect your business, the day-to-day business, and the expectations that of your clients. Some depending if this is a hardware or software or different types of systems, they tend to have a mortality graph where again, based on empirical evidence that systems tend to be very vulnerable at the beginning. Right, that if you get a laptop or a piece of software or hardware, it's either likely to fail very early on in its lifespan, and typically if it doesn't fail the first week or so, you can consider that it'll work for the next year or so, right? And that and then end of life, right after use, certainly the risk of failure goes up again, right? It's a very common curve, and different pieces of hardware will have different curves that hardware failure characteristics, based on empirical evidence. Now a system might have multiple subsystems that each one could have its own failure characteristic. Right? So some of them might be software, some of them might be hardware, multiple hardware systems, right? And each one of them, it's part of a long chain of things that could go wrong. That if any one of them fail, the whole system fails, right? And you can calculate what the reliability of each one individual system might be. And typically you want to be able to calculate the reliability of the overall system, right? So you can multiply the multiple availabilities percentage-wise, right? The different probabilities with one another. So you can calculate the overall reliability of the entire system, right? And each one would be individual components, right? Now some of these systems could be fairly complex. There's so many things could go wrong that there might be no way to combine them, and there might be just an NP complete exponential way that you can combine different systems. That there's no way for you to calculate the overall probability of it failing. So that's why they tend to architect these systems so modularly, right? So that they don't have it. They have very limited dependency amongst the systems, so you can calculate its individual probability easier. building better systems that might improve the time to failure, the between failures and whatnot. Typically, we tend to try and make the systems fairly redundant. That assuming that it indeed is going to go down, that you might have a system that is on hot standby. That is perhaps it might be either a different multiple CPUs with multiple hard drives, and typically these systems are sister systems that know about each other's state. Any network communication that was going to one is also being routed to the second system. They might be sharing some of the same databases, so that if one goes down, the other one could immediately pick up where the other one left. Some of these systems are also hot swappable, where you can just take out a hard drive that went bad, and you can just plug in another one. Obviously, also continuous power systems and databases that have been backed up in your data store that you can just you can bring it back up in a small amount of time. So here's a couple of questions that you might be asked, where some practice one says, assuming that you're in a continual operation and an availability of 99.8%, how many minutes of downtime can be expected in a year, right? So we can calculate by the given the 99.8%, knowing one of these formulas where we can calculate the total amount of time in minutes in a year, which I believe it's 525,000. We can then calculate for failure, right? We can just isolate that, and I think it comes out to be 1,000 plus minutes. Or if we give you in the time that it takes us on average to repair a particular system from failure, if it's 15 minutes, can we calculate what's the mean time between failures? Right, what would be the average mean time between? Again, going back to the equations that we might have, we can. It's part of the same system, right? So the previous values still stand, right? So 99.8% availability. So if you have MTTR 50 minutes and 98.9, again, we can plug it in here and come out to be these minutes, which they ask for it in hours. So divided by 60, we get that many hours. Then we have a system that might have multiple components, and each component might have different availability. We're being asked, well, what's the overall reliability of the system, right? So we looked at the we can multiply the multiple probabilities, and it gives us an overall probability of failure on that particular system. And it says, well, which one would you focus on first, right? So typically you want to focus on the one that's really hurting the overall availability, which is 94.3%, right? So it's fairly hard to go from 99.999 to the next to the next level. Probably would be a lot of effort to improve any of those. So certainly there's a lot of room for improvement on that 94.3. So to improve the overall efficiency, availability. So this one says, if each minute of downtime costs you $147 of lost sales, what is the annual loss, assuming the above reliability? So again, the same reliability that we had earlier, which was what is it, 90 what? Yeah, the 93.26 reliability. We can and we know the amount of money that it costs, 147. We can plug it in here, right? And so in the year, it's 25,000 minutes, and And the failures came out to be, okay, so we can isolate failures. It comes out to be 93% availability minus 1 times comes out to be 35,000 minutes times $147, and it comes out to be, I don't know how much money that is. So there's a couple more practice questions. So why don't you go through some of these? We do give you the results for each one of them. So just practice them on your own, right? And see what you get. You can assume that there might be a couple of questions like this in the next quiz. Well, given MTF, calculate availability, or vice versa, back and forth, right? All right.